The Selenium IDE allows us to create test cases by recording our interactions on a website within the Firefox browser. This tool is a quick and easy way to at least get started, if not be able to realize the entire test case by doing the manual testing we'd be doing anyway and capturing the results. Let's build a test and see this tool in action. So we have our page that we're going to start with on our testing, and we have our IDE up and ready to go. We just want to make sure that our recording button is clicked, and as long as this is clicked and says now recording, ready to go, then I can just start testing as I normally would. So I click my login, because that's what I want to test, and I type in my username, and I type in my password, and I hit login. Now, if I come back over here, you can see it captured. I started on the home page. I clicked the login button. I typed in a username, I typed in a password, and then I hit the submit button, and I've come here. Now, I need to validate that this is indeed the page I expected to be on. And the way I can do that is I can right-click here and then go down to one of the assert options inside of here. I can say assert that this text is actually on there. And if I go back to my page, you can see I'm asserting inside of this H2 block, I have the administrator text that's showing up inside of my test case here and on my website. So pretty much I'm ready to go. I can go through and I can save this test now if I want to. I don't have to save it right now. I can save it later, but it's going to be my login test right here. And so you can see now I've given it a name, and every time I save it, it's going to be saved as an HTML file inside of my folder there. So let's go ahead and run the test again, and oh, our test broke. Well, it says down here in our log that the login was not found. So it went and opened up the page, as it says, but you can see our login page is not here because we still have our site thinking we're logged in. We never logged out, and so as far as this website's concerned, we're still logged in, and so there is no login button. That's okay, I can fix my test fairly easily. So after I validate the administrator's home and logged in, I can come down here, click on this next step, go hit record again, and then I can go click on the logout button and record that step to say, hey, log out afterwards. Alright, so now I'm going to save my test case again, Control S, save that right there, and then I can run the test case again. Oh, and now we run into some timing issues. This happens occasionally. That's okay. Let's just slow down our test for a second, and we'll let this run over again. And there, everything worked exactly as expected. So all the steps passed, my test case passed again, and if I run it again from scratch, it all seems to be working just fine. So there we go. Now my test case is up and running. Now, my test case isn't necessarily done. I've only tested the happy path test case inside of here. I haven't done anything to test any failures. So how do I do that? Well, I can come back to my my admin tool and I can insert steps anywhere I want to here, or I can add them afterwards. So maybe what I want to do is test the happy path and then hit the record inside of here. And so after I've tested the happy path, after I log out, I end up on this page, so I can just hit the login button alone. And so again, you can see I've added, since I hit record again, another step to login. And now I want to validate, hey, the username is required. That should show up here. And so I want to assert that that text is there, and the password's required. I want to assert that that text is there. So I have two assert statements I'm adding inside of here that the username and password are required at this point. And so I'm testing and making sure those are happening. And I can add on to this test all I want to. I could test them individually. So if I do like this, I can type that in here. You can see I've added the text, and then I can validate that it still says password is required. And then I can go through and test the login properly, and then validate one more time that this is here. So we see again, this is here right there, and then I want to log out again just to make sure I end up back in the same spot. So I'm going to save my test case again. I can run my test case again and see if it will go through all these steps. So it logs in just fine on the happy path, and it's validating. Yep, it looks like that's working. Yep, that looks like that's working. All right, and so now I have a test that in theory fully tests my login feature. Now, you might choose to do your test like this, everything in one big flow. You could also choose to use many tests. There's nothing wrong to have a login test suite and have one test that's a happy path and one test that's fail test and things like that. That's going to be up to you in test design. But using the IDE, you see we can record our steps and very easily capture a full test case and even do a little bit of debugging and make sure everything works within our tool.